Queen of angels, Queen of patriarchs, Queen of prophets, of all saints, they prayed, Queen of the most holy rosary. And then Father Conroy handed the thurible to Canon O'Hanlon, and he put the incense and sensed the blessed sacrament, and Sissy Caffrey caught the two twins, and she was itching to give them a ring and good clip on the ear, but she didn't because she thought he might be watching. But she never made a bigger mistake in all her life, because Gertie could see without looking that he never took his eyes off of her. And then Canon O'Hanlon handed the thurible back to Father Conroy and knelt down looking up at the blessed sacrament, and the choir began to sing the Tantum Ergo, and she just swung her foot in and out in time as the music rose and fell to the Tantum Ergo Sacramentum. 3 and 11 she paid for those stockings and sparrows of George's Street on the Tuesday, no the Monday before Easter, and there wasn't a brag on them. That was what he was looking at, transparent, and not at her insignificant ones that had neither shape nor form, the cheek of her. Because he had eyes in his head to see the difference for himself. Sissy came up along the Strand with the two twins in their ball with her hat anyhow, and heard the one side after her run, and she did look a streel tugging the two kids along with the flimsy blouse she bought only a fortnight before, like a rag on her back, and the bit of her petticoat hanging like a caricature. Gertie just took off her hat for a moment to settle her hair in a prettier, a daintier head of nut-brown tresses was never seen on a girl's shoulders, a radiant little vision, in sooth, almost maddening in its sweetness. You would have to travel many a long mile before you found a head of hair the like of that. She could almost see the swift answering flash of admiration in his eyes that set her tingling in every nerve. She put on her hat so that she could see from underneath the brim, and swung her buckled shoe faster, for her breath caught as she caught the expression in his eyes. He was eyeing her as a snake eyes its prey. Her woman's instinct told her that she had raised the devil in him, that the thought of burning scarlet swept from throat to brow till the lovely color of her face became a glorious rose. Eddie Boardman was noticing it too, because she was squinting at Gertie, half smiling, with her specs like an old maid, pretending to nurse the baby. Irritable little gnat she was and always would be, and that was why no one could get on with her poking her nose into what was no concern of hers. And she said to Gertie, "A penny for your thoughts." "What?" replied Gertie with a smile reinforced by the whitest of teeth. "I was only wondering, was it late?" Because she wished to goodness they'd take the snot-nosed twins and their baby home to the mischief out of that, so that was why she just gave a gentle hint about its being late. And when Sissy came up, Eddie asked her the time, and Miss Sissy, as glib as you like, said it was 1/2 kissing time, time to kiss again. But Eddie wanted to know because they were told to be in early. "Wait," said Sissy, "I'll run ask my Uncle Peter over there what's the time by his conundrum." So over she went, and when he saw her coming she could see him take his hand out of his pocket, getting nervous, and beginning to play with his watch chain, looking up at the church. Passionate nature though he was, Gertie could see that he had enormous control over himself. One moment he had been there, fascinated by loveliness that made him gaze, and the next moment it was the quiet grave-faced gentleman, self-control expressed in every line of his distinguished-looking figure. Sissy said to excuse her, would he mind please telling her what was the right time, and Gertie could see him taking out his watch, listening to it and looking up and clearing his throat, and he said he was very sorry his watch was stopped, but he thought it must be after 8 because his sun was set. His voice had a cultured ring in it, and though he spoke in measured accents there was a suspicion of a quiver in the mellow tones. Sissy said thanks and came back with her tongue out and said Uncle said his waterworks were out of order. Then they sang the second verse of the Tantum Ergo, and Canon O'Hanlon got up again and sensed the Blessed Sacrament and knelt down, and he told Father Conroy that one of the candles was just going to set fire to the flowers, and Father Conroy got up and settled it all right, and she could see the gentleman winding his watch and listening to the works, and she swung her leg more than out in time. It was getting darker, but he could see, and he was looking all the time that he was winding the watch or whatever he was doing to it, and then he put it back and put his hands back into his pockets. She felt a kind of a sensation rushing all over her, and she knew by the feel of her scalp and an irritation against her stays that that thing must be coming on, because the last time too was when she clipped her hair on account of the moon. His dark eyes fixed themselves on her again, drinking in her every contour, literally worshipping at her shrine. If ever there was undisguised admiration in a man's passionate gaze, it was plain to be seen on that man's face. "It is for you, Gertrude McDowell, and you know it." Eddie began to get ready to go, and it was high time for her, and Gertie noticed that that little hint she gave had the desired effect, because it was a long way along the Strand to where there was a place to push up the push-gear, and Sissy took off the twins' caps and tidied their hair to make herself attractive, of course, and Canon O'Hanlon stood up with his coat poking up at his neck, and Father Conroy handed him the card to read off, and he read out Panem Quella Priestadis. The eyes and Eddie and Sissy were talking about the time all the time and asking her, but Gertie could pay them back in their own coin, and she just answered with scathing politeness when Eddie asked her was she heartbroken about her best boy throwing her over. Gertie winced sharply. A brief cold blaze shone from her eyes that spoke volumes of scorn immeasurable. It hurt, oh yes. It cut deep, because Eddie had her own quiet way of saying things like that she knew would wound like the confounded little cat she was. Gertie's lips parted swiftly to frame the word, but she fought back the sob that rose to her throat. So slim, so flawless, so beautifully molded, it seemed one an artist might have dreamed of. She had loved him better than he knew. Light-hearted, deceiver, and fickle like all his sex, he would never understand what he had meant to her, and for an instant there was in the blue eyes a quick stinging of tears. Their eyes were probing her mercilessly, but with a brave effort she sparkled back in sympathy as she glanced at her new conquest for them to see. "Oh," responded Gertie, quick as lightning, laughing, and the proud head flashed up. "I can throw my cap at who I like because it's sleepier." Her words rang up crystal clear, more musical than the cooing of the ringed dove, but they cut the silence icily. There was that in her young voice that told that she was not a one to be lightly trifled with. As for Mr. Reggie with his swank and his bit of money, she could just chuck him aside as if he was so much filth, and never again would she cast as much as a second thought on him and tear his silly postcard into a dozen pieces. And if ever after he dared to presume she could give him one look of measured scorn that would make him shrivel up on the spot. Miss puny little Eddie's countenance fell to no slight extent, and Gertie could see by her looking as black as thunder that she was simply in a towering rage, though she hid it, the little kinnet, because that shaft had struck home for her petty jealousy, and both knew that she was something aloof, apart, in another sphere, that she was not of them and never would be, and there was somebody else too that knew it and saw it, so they could put that in their pipe and smoke it. Eddie straightened up baby Boardman to get ready to go, and Sissy tucked in the ball and the spades and buckets, and it was high time to, because the Sandman was on his way from Master Boardman Jr. And Sissy told him too that Billy Wings was coming and that baby was to go deed on. Baby looked just too ducky, laughing up out of his gleeful eyes, and Sissy poked him like that out of fun in his wee fat tummy, and baby, without as much as by your leave, send up his compliments to all and sundry on to his brand new dribbling bib. "Oh my puddeny pie," protested Sis. "He has his bib destroyed." The slight contretemps claimed her attention, but in two she set that little matter to rights. Gertie stifled a smothered exclamation and gave a nervous cough, and Eddie asked what she was just going to tell her to catch it while it was flying, but she was ever ladylike in her deportment, so she simply passed it off with consummate tact by saying that was the benediction, because then the bell rang out from the steeple over the quiet seashore, because Canon O'Hanlon was up on the altar with the veil that Father Conroy put round his shoulders, giving the benediction with the blessed sacrament in his hands. How moving the scene there in the gathering twilight, the last glimpse of Erin, the touching chime of those evening bells, and at the same time a bat flew forth from the abbey belfry through the dusk, hither, thither, with a tiny lost cry. And she could see far away the lights of the lighthouses so picturesque she would have loved it with a box of paints because it was easier than to make a man, and soon the lamplighter would be going his rounds past the Presbyterian church grounds and along by shady Tritonville Avenue where the couples walking lighting the lamp near her window were Reggie while he used to turn his freewheel like she read in that book The Lamplighter by Miss Cummins, author of Mabel Vaughan and Other Tales. For Gertie had her dreams that no one knew of. She loved to read poetry, and when she got a keepsake from Bertha Supple, that lovely confession album with the coral pink cover to write her thoughts, and she laid it in the drawer of her toiletable which, though it did not err on the side of luxury, was scrupulously neat and clean. It was there she kept her girlish treasure trove, the tortoise eshell combs, her childhood mare badge, the white recent, the eyebrow line, her alabaster pouncet box, and the ribbons to change when her things came home from the wash, and there were some beautiful thoughts written in it in violet ink that she bought in Hollies of Dame Street, for she felt that she too could write poetry if she could only express herself like that poem that appealed to her so deeply that she had copied out of the newspaper she found one evening round the Patherbs. Art thou real, my ideal? It was called by Lewis J. Walsh, McGarry felt, and after there was something about twilight, wilt thou ever? And oft times the beauty of poetry, so sad in its transient loveliness, had misted her eyes with silent tears, for she felt that the years were slipping by for her, one by one, and but for that one shortcoming she knew she need fear no competition, and that was an accident coming down Dalkey Hill, and she always tried to conceal it. But it must end, she felt. If she saw that magic lure in his eyes, there would be no holding back for her. Love laughs at locksmith. She would make the great sacrifice. Her every effort would be to share his thoughts. Dearer than the whole world would she be to him, and gild his days with happiness. There was the all-important question, and she was dying to know, was he a married man or a widower who had lost his wife, or some tragedy like the nobleman with the foreign name from the land of song had to have her put into a madhouse, cruel only to be kind. But even if, what then? Would it make a very great difference? From everything in the least indelicate her finely bred nature instinctively recoiled. She loathed that sort of person. The fallen women off the accommodation walked beside the daughter that went with the soldiers, and coarse men with no respect for a girl's honor, degrading the sex and being taken up to the police station. No, not that. They would be just good friends like a big brother and sister without all that other, in spite of the conventions of society with a big S. Perhaps it was an old flame he was in mourning for from the days beyond recall. She thought she understood. She would try to understand him because men were so different. The old love was waiting with little white hands stretched out, with blue appealing eyes. Heart of mine. She would follow her dream of love, the dictates of her heart that told her he was her all in all, the only man in all the world for her, for love was the master guide. Nothing else mattered. Come what might, she would be wild, untrammeled, free. Canon O'Hanlon put the blessed sacrament back into the tabernacle, and Jenny Flecknett and the choir sang Laudate Dominum Omnes Gentes, and then he locked the tabernacle door because the benediction was over, and Father Conroe handed him his hat to put on, and Crosscat Eddie asked, wasn't she coming? But Jackie Caffrey called out, oh, look, sissy. And they all looked. Was it sheet lightning? But Tommy saw it too, over the trees beside the church, blue and then green and purple. It's fireworks, Sissy Caffrey said. And they all ran down the Strand to see over the houses and the church, helter-skelter, Eddie with the pushcar with baby Boardman in it, and Sissy holding Tommy and Jackie by the hand so they wouldn't fall running. Come on, Gertie, Sissy called. It's the bazaar fireworks. But Gertie was adamant. She had no intention of being at their beck and call. If they could run like Rossies, she could sit so she said she could see from where she was. The eyes that were fastened upon her set her pulses tingling. She looked at him a moment, meeting his glance, and the light broke in upon her. White-hot passion was in that face, passion silent as the grave, and it had made her his. At last they were left alone without the others to pry and pass remarks, and she knew he could be trusted to the death, steadfast, a sterling man, a man of inflexible honor to his fingertips. His hands and face were working, and a tremor went over her. She leaned back far to look up where the fireworks were, and she caught her knee in her hand so as not to fall back looking up, and there was no one to see, only him and her, when she revealed all her graceful, beautifully shaped legs like that, supply soft and delicately rounded, and she seemed to hear the panting of his heart, his hoarse breathing, because she knew too about the passion of men like that. Hot-blooded, because Bertha Supple told her once in dead secret and made her swear she'd never about their gentleman lodger that was staying with them out of the congested districts board that had pictures cut out of papers of those skirt dancers and her kickers, and she said he used it as something not very nice that you could imagine sometimes in the bed. But this was altogether different from a thing like that, because there was all the difference, because she could almost feel him draw her face to his in the first quick hot touch of his handsome lips. Besides, there was absolution so long as you didn't do the other thing before being married, and there ought to be a woman priest that would understand without your telling out. And Sissy Caffrey too sometimes had that dreamy kind of dreamy look in her eyes, so that she too, my dear, and Winnie Rippingham so mad about actors' photographs, and besides it was on account of that other thing coming on the way it did. And Jackie Caffrey shouted to look, there was another, and she leaned back and the garters were blue to match on account of the transparent, and they all saw it and they all shouted to look, look, there it was, and she leaned back ever so far to see the fireworks, and something queer was flying through the air, a soft thing, to and fro, dark. And she saw a long Roman candle going up over the trees, up, and, in the tense hush, they were all breathless with excitement as it went higher and higher, and she had to lean back more and more to look up after it, high, almost out of sight, and her face was suffused with a divine and entrancing blush from straining back, and he could see her other things too, nainsook knickers, the fabric that caresses the skin, better than those other petticoats, the green, 4 and 11, on account of being white, and she let him, and she saw that he saw, and then it went so high it went out of sight a moment, and she was trembling in every limb from being bent so far back that he had a full view high up above her knee where no one ever, not even on the swing or waiting, and she wasn't ashamed, and he wasn't either, to look in that a modest way like that, because he couldn't resist the sight of the wondrous revealment half offered, like those skirt dancers behaving so immodest before gentlemen looking, and he kept on looking. She would fain have cried to him chokingly, held out her snowy slender arms to him to come, to feel his lips laid on her white brow, the cry of a young girl's love, a little strangled cry, wrung from her, that cry that has rung through the ages. And then the rocket sprang and bang shot blind blank and oh. Then the Roman candle burst, and it was like a sigh of oh. And everyone cried oh. Oh, in raptures, and it gushed out of it a stream of rain gold hair threads, and they shed and all. They were all greeny dewy stars falling with golden, oh so lovely, oh, soft, sweet, soft. Then all melted away to wildly in the gray air, all was silent. Ah! She glanced at him as she bent forward quickly, a pathetic little glance of piteous protest, of shy reproach, under which he colored like a girl. He was leaning back against the rock behind. Leopold Bloom, for does he stand silent, with bowed head before those young guileless eyes. What a brute he had been. At it again. A fair unsullied soul had called to him, and, wretch that he was, how had he answered? An utter cad he had been. He of all men. But there was an infinite store of mercy in those eyes, for him too, a word of pardon, even though he had erred and sinned and wandered. Should the girl tell? No, 1,000 times no. That was their secret, only theirs, alone in the hiding twilight, and there was none to know or tell save the little bat that flew so softly through the evening to and fro, and the little bats don't tell. Sissy Caffrey whistled, imitating the boys in the football field to show what a great person she was, and then she cried, "Gertie, Gertie, we're going. Come on. We can see from farther up." Gertie had an idea, one of love's little ruses. She slipped a hand into her kerchief pocket and took out the wadding and waved in reply of course without letting him, and then slipped it back. "Wonder if he's too far to." She rose. Was it goodbye? No. She had to go, but they would meet again, there, and she would dream of that till then, tomorrow, of her dream of yestereve. She drew herself up to her full height. Their souls met in a last lingering glance, and the eyes that reached her heart, full of a strange shining, hung enraptured on her sweet flower-like face. She half smiled at him wanly, a sweet forgiving smile, a smile that verged on tears, and then they parted. Slowly, without looking back, she went down the uneven strand to Sissy, to wait at Jackie and Tommy Caffrey, the little baby boardman. It was darker now, and there were stones and bits of wood on the strand and slippy seaweed. She walked with a certain quiet dignity characteristic of her, but with care and very slowly, because Gertie McDowell was. Tight boots? No. She's laying. Oh? Mr. Bloom watched her as she limped away. Poor girl. That's why she's left on the shelf and the others didn't sprint. Thought something was wrong by the cut of her jib. Jilted beauty. A defect is 10 times worse in a woman, but makes them polite. Glad I didn't know it when she was on the show. Hot little devil all the same. I wouldn't mind. Curiosity like a nun or a negress or a girl with glasses. That squinty one is delicate. Near her monthlies, I expect, makes them feel ticklish. I have such a bad headache today. Where did I put the letter? Yes, all right. All kinds of crazy longings. Licking pennies. Girl in Tranquilla convent that none told me liked to smell rock oil. Virgins go mad in the end, I suppose. Sister. How many women in Dublin have it today? Martha, she. Something in the air. That's the moon. But then why don't all women menstruate at the same time with the same moon? I mean, depends on the time they were born, I suppose. Or I'll start scratch and get out a step. Sometimes Molly and Millie together. Anyhow, I got the best of that. Damn glad I didn't do it in the bath this morning over her silly "I will punish you" letter. Made up for that tram driver this morning. That gadger Mco is stopping me to say nothing. And his wife engagement in the country valise, voice like a pickaxe. Thankful for small mercies. Cheap too. Yours for the asking. Because they want it themselves. Their natural craving. Shoals of them every evening poured out of offices. Reserve better. Don't want it, they throw it at you. Catch 'em alive, oh pity they cannot see themselves. A dream of well-filled hose. Where was that? Ah, yes. Mutoscope pictures in Capel Street, from Emily. Peeping Tom. Willie's hat and what the girls did with it. Do they snapshot those girls, or is it all fake? Longierado's it. Felt for the curves inside her deshbile. Excites them also when they're I'm all clean, come and dirty me. And they like dressing one another for the sacrifice. Millie delighted with Molly's new blouse. At first, put them all on to take them all off. Molly. Why, I bought her the violet garters. As to the tie he wore, his lovely socks and turnip trousers. He wore a pair of gaiters the night that first we met. His lovely shirt was shining beneath his what of jet. Say a woman loses a charm with every pin she takes out. Pins together. Oh, Mary lost the pin of her. Dressed up to the nines for somebody. Fashion part of their charm. Just changes when you are on the track of the secret. Except the East, Mary, Martha, now as then. No reasonable offer refused. She wasn't in a hurry either. Always off to a fellow when they are. They never forget an appointment. Out on spec probably. They believe in chance because like themselves. And the others inclined to give her an odd dig. Girlfriends at school, arms around each other's necks or with 10 fingers locked, kissing and whispering secrets about nothing in the convent garden. Nuns with whitewashed faces, cool quaffs and their rosaries going up and down, vindictive too for what they can't get. Barbed wire. Be sure now and write to me. And I'll write to you. Now won't you? Molly and Josie Powell. Till Mr. Right comes along, then meet once in a blue moon. Tableau. Oh, look who it is for the love of God. How are you at all? What have you been doing with yourself? Kiss and delighted to kiss, to see you. Picking holes in each other's appearance. You were looking splendid. Sister souls, showing their teeth at one another. How many have you left? Wouldn't lend each other a pinch of salt. Ah! Devil's there when that's coming on them. Dark devilish appearance. Molly often told me feel things a ton of weight. Scratch the sole of my foot. Oh, that way. Oh, that's exquisite. Feel it myself too. Good to rest once in a way. Wonder if it's bad to go with them then. Safe in one way. Turns milk, makes fiddlet strings snap. Something about withering plants I read in a garden. Besides, they say the flower with her she wears she's a flirt. All are. Dare say she felt one. When you feel like that you often meet what you feel. Like mere what? Dress they look at. Always know a fella courting, collars and cuffs. Wilcox and Lyons did the same in Stags. Same time might prefer a tie undone or something. Trousers. Suppose when I was. No. Gently does it. Just like rough and tumble. Kiss in the dark and never tell. Saw something in me. Wonder what. Sooner have me as I am than some poet chap with birch grease plastery hair, lovelock over his dexter optic. To a gentleman in the literary. Ought to attend to my parents my age. Didn't let her see me in profile. Still, you never know. Pretty girls and ugly men marrying. Beauty and the Beast. Besides, I can't be so with Molly. Took off her hat to show her hair. Wide brim. Bought to hide her face, meeting someone might know her, bent down or carry a bunch of flowers to smell. Hair strung and rut. Tin bob I got from Molly's combings when we were on the rocks in Hull Street. Why not? Suppose he gave her money. Why not? All the prejudice. She's worth 10, 15, more, a pound. What? I think so. All that for nothing. Bold hand, Mrs. Marion. Did I forget to write address on that letter like the postcard I sent to Flint? And the day I went to Dreamies without a necktie. Wrangle with Molly, it was putting me off. No, I remember. Richie Goulding, he's another. Wheeze on his mind. Funny my watch stopped at 4:30. Dust. Shark liver oil they used to clean. Could do it myself. Save. Was that just when he did. Into her. She did. Done. Ah. Mr. Bloom with careful hand recomposed his wet shirt. Oh Lord, that little limping devil begins to feel cold and clammy. After effect not pleasant. Still, you have to get it some way. They don't care. Complimented perhaps. Go home to nicey bread and milk and say night prayers with the kiddies. Well, aren't they? See her as she is spoiled all. Must have the stage setting, the rouge, costume, position, music. The name too. Amours of actresses. Nell Gwynn, Mrs. Bridgerton, Maud Branscombe. Curtain up. Moonlight silver effulgence. Maiden discovered with pensive bosom. Little sweetheart, come and kiss me. Still, I feel the strength that gives a man. That's the secret of it. Good job I let off there behind the wall coming out of Dignam's. Cider that was. Otherwise I couldn't have. Makes you want to sing after. Look how essential Tara. Suppose I spoke to her. What about? Bad plan, however, if you don't know how to end the conversation. Ask them a question, they ask you another. Good idea if you're stuck. Game time. But then you're in a cart. Wonderful, of course, if you say, good evening, and you see she's on for it. Good evening. Oh, but the dark evening in the happy way I nearly spoke to Mrs. Clincho thinking she was. Hugh. Girl in Meath Street that night. All the dirty things I made her say. All wrong, of course. My art, she called it. It's so hard to find one who. I hope. If you don't answer when they solicit, must be horrible for them till they harden. And kissed my hand when I gave her the extra 2 shillings. Paris. Press the button and the bird will squeak. Wish she hadn't called me sir. Oh, her mouth in the dark. And you're a married man with a single girl. That's what they enjoy. Taking a man from another woman. Or even hear of it. Different with me. Glad to get away from other chap's wife. Eating off his cold plate. Chap in the Burton today spitting back gum-chewed gristle. French letter still in my pocketbook. Cause of half the trouble. But might happen sometime, I don't think. Come in, all is prepared. I dreamt. What? Worst is beginning. How they change the venue when it's not what they like. Ask you, do you like mushrooms, because she once knew a gentleman who. Or ask you what someone was going to say when he changed his mind and stopped. Yet if I went the whole hog, say, I want to, something like that. Because I did. She too. Offend her. Then make it up. Pretend to want something awfully, then cry out for her sake. Flatters them. She must have been thinking of someone else all the time. What harm? Must since she came to the use of reason, he and he. First kissed is a trick. The propitious moment. Something inside them goes pop. Mushy like, tell by their eye, on the sly. First thoughts are best. Remember that till their dying day. Molly, Lieutenant Mulvey that kissed her under the Moorish wall beside the gardens. 15 she told me. but her breasts were developed. Fell asleep then. After going Cree dinner, that was when we drove home. Fethard Mountain, gnashing her teeth in sleep. Lord Mayor had his eye on her too. Val Dillon, apoplectic. There she is with them down there for the fireworks. My fireworks. Up like a rocket, down like a stick. And the children, twins they must be, waiting for something to happen. Want to be grown-ups. Dressing in mother's clothes. Time enough, understand all the ways of the world. And the dark one with the mop head and the nigger mouth. I knew she could whistle. Mouth made for that. Like Molly. Why did her class orange Met swore her veil only to her nose? Would you mind, please, telling me the right time? I'll tell you the right time up a dark lane. Say prunes and prisms 40 times every morning, cure for fat lips. Caressing the little boy too. Onlookers see most of the game. Of course they understand birds, animals, babies. In their line. Didn't look back when she was going down the Strand. Wouldn't give that satisfaction. Those girls, and those lovely seaside girls. Fine eyes she had, clear. It's the white of the eye brings that out, not so much the pupil. Did she know what I? Course. Like a cat sitting beyond a dog's jump. Women never meet one like that Wilkins in the high school drawing a picture of Venus with all his belongings on show. Called it innocence. Poor idiot. His wife has her work cut out for her. Never see them sit on a bench marked wet paint. Eyes all over them. Look under the bed for what's not there. Longing to get the fright of their lives. Sharp as needles they are. When I said to Molly the man at the corner of Cuff Street was good looking, thought she might like, twigged that once he had a false arm. Bad, too. Where do they get that? Typist going up Roger Greene's stairs 2 at the time to show her understandings. Handed down from father to mother to daughter, I mean. Bred in the bone. Millie, for example, drying her handkerchief on the mirror to save the ironing. Best place for an ad to catch a woman's eye on a mirror. And when I sent her for Molly's paisley shawl to Prescott's, by the way, that ad I must carrying home the change in her stocking. Clever little minx. I never told her. Neat way she carries parcels too. Attract men, small thing like that. Holding up her hand, shaking it, to let the blood flow back when it was red. Who did you learn that from? Nobody. Something the nurse taught me. Oh, don't they know? 3 years old she was in front of Molly's dressing table, just before we left Lombard Street West. We have a nice pace. Mullinger. Who knows? Ways of the world. Young student. Straight on her pins anyway, not like the other. Still she was game. Lord, I am wet. W.R. Swell of her calf. Transparent stockings, stretched to breaking point. Not like that from today. A.E. rumpled stockings. Or the one in Grafton Street. Why? Wow. Beef of the heel. A monkey puzzle rocket burst, spluttering and darting crackles. Zraids and zraids, zraids, zraids. And Sissy and Tommy and Jackie ran out to sea and Eddie after with the push gear and then Gertie beyond the curve of the rocks. Will she? Watch. Watch. See. Look around. She smelled an onion. Darling, I saw. I saw. Lord. did me good all the same. Off-color after Kieran's, Dignam's. For this relief much thanks. In Hamlet, that is. Lord. It was all things combined. Excitement. When she leaned back, felt an ache at the butt of my tongue. Your head it simply swirls. He's right. Might have made a worse fool of myself, however. Instead of talking about nothing. Then I will tell you all. Still it was a kind of language between us. It couldn't be. No, Gerda they called her. Might be false name, however, like my name and the address Dolphin's Barn a Blind. Her maiden name was Jemina Brown and she lived with her mother in Irishtown. Place made me think of that, I suppose. All tarred with the same brush wiping pens in their stockings. But the ball rolled down to her as if it understood. Every bullet has its billet. Course I never could throw anything straight at school. Crooked as a ram's horn. Sad, however, because it lasts only a few years till they settle down to pot walloping, and Papa's pants will soon fit Willie in Fuller's earth for the baby when they hold him out to dry her. No soft job. Saves them. Keeps them out of harm's way. Nature. Washing child, washing corpse. Dignam. Children's hands always round them. Coconut skulls, monkeys, not even closed at first, sour milk in their swaddles and tainted curds. Oughtn't to have given that child an empty teat to suck. Fill it up with wind. Mrs. Biafoy, Pierfoy. Must call to the hospital. Wonders nurse calendar still. She used to look over some nights when Molly was in the coffee palace. That young Dr. O'Hare, I noticed her brushing his coat. And Mrs. Breen and Mrs. Dignam once like that too, marriageable. Worst of all at night Mrs. Duggan told me in the City Arms. Husband rolling and drunk, stink of pub off him like a polecat. Have that in your nose in the dark, whiff of stale booze. Then ask in the morning, was I drunk last night? Bad policy, however, to fault the husband. Chickens come home to roost. They stick by one another like glue. Maybe the women's fault also. That's where Molly can knock spots off them. It's the blood of the South. More a. Also the form, the figure. Hands felt for the opulent. Just compare for instance those others. Wife locked up at home, skeleton in the cupboard. Allow me to introduce my. Then they trot you out some kind of a nondescript, wouldn't know what to call her. Always see a fellow's weak point in his wife. Still there's destiny in it, falling in love. Have their own secrets between them. Chaps that would go to the dogs if some woman didn't take them in hand. Then little chits of girls, height of a shilling in coppers, with little hubbies. As God made them he matched them. Sometimes children turn out well enough. Twice not makes one. Or old rich chap of 70 and blushing bride. Marry in May and repent in December. This where it is very unpleasant. Stuck. Well, the foreskin is not back. Better detach. Oh. Other hand is 6-footer with a whiffy up to his watch pocket. Long in the short of it. Big he and little she. Very strange about my watch. Wristwatches are always going wrong. Wonder is there any magnetic influence between the person, because that was about the time he. Yes, I suppose, at once. Cats away, the mice will play. I remember looking in Pill Lane. Also that now is magnetism. Back at everything magnetism. Earth for instance pulling this and being pulled. That causes movement. And time, well, that's the time the movement takes. Then if one thing stopped, the whole Casabo would stop bit by bit. Because it's all arranged. Magnetic needle tells you what's going on in the sun, the stars. Little piece of still iron. When you hold out the fork. Come. Come. Tip. Woman and man that is. Fork and steel. Molly, hey. Dress up and look and suggest and let you see and say more and defy you if you're no man to see that end, like a sneeze coming, legs, look and if you have any guts in you. Tip. Have to let fly. Wonder how is she feeling in that region? Shame all put on before third person. More put out about a hole in her stocking. Molly, her underjaw stuck out, head back, about the farmer and the riding boots and spurs at the horse show. And when the painters were in Lombard Street West. Fine voice that fellow had. Hydroglina began. Smell that I did. Like flowers. It was two. Violets. Came from the turpentine probably in the paint. Make their own use of everything. Same time doing it scraped her slipper on the floor so they wouldn't hear. But lots of them can't kick the beam, I think. Keep the thing up for hours. Kind of gentle all around over me and half down my back. Wait. HM? HM? Yes. That's her perfume. Why she waved her hand. I leave you this to think of me when I'm far away on the pillow. What is it? Healing rope? No. Hyacinth. HM? Roses, I think. She'd like scent of that kind. Sweet and cheap, soon sour. Why Molly likes Opipanax. Soothe her, with a little jessamine mixed. Her high notes and her low notes. At the dance night she met him, dance of the hours. He brought it out. She was wearing her black and it hid the perfume of the time before. Good conductor, is it? Or bad? Light too. Suppose there is some connection. For instance, if you go into a cellar where it's dark. Mysterious thing too. Why did I smell it only now? Took its time in coming like herself, slow but sure. Suppose it's ever so many millions of tiny grains blown across. Yes, it is. Because those Spice Islands, Singalese this morning, smell them leagues off. Tell you what it is. It's like a fine veil or web they have all over the skin, fine like what do you call it, gossamer, and they're always spinning it out of them, fine as anything, like rainbow colors without knowing it. Clings to everything she takes off. The vamp of her stockings. Warm shoe. Stays. Drawers, little kick, taking them off. Bye-bye till next time. Also the cat likes to sniff in her shift on the bed. Know her smell in 1,000. Bath water too. Reminds me of strawberries and cream. Wonder where it is really. There are the armpits or under the neck. Because you get it out of all holes and corners. Hyacinth perfume made of oil of ether or something. Muskrat. Bag under their tails. One gray and pour off a door for years. Dogs at each other behind. Good evening. Evening. How do you sniff? HM? HM? Very well, thank you. Animals go by that. Yes, now, look at it that way. We're the same. Some women, instance, warn you off when they have their period. Come near. Then get a hogo you could hang your hat on. Like what? potted herrings go on stale hour. Booth, please keep off the grass. Perhaps they get a man smell off us. What though? Gary gloves a long John had on his desk the other day. Breath. What you eat and drink gives that. No. My smell, I mean, must be connected with that because priests that are supposed to be are different. Women buzz round it like flies round a treacle. Railed off the altar, get onto it at any cost. The tree of forbidden priest. Oh, Father, will you let me be the first to that diffuses itself all through the body, permeates, source of life, and it's extremely curious to smell. Celery sauce. Let me. Mr. Bloom inserted his nose. H.M. into the H.M. opening of his waistcoat. Almonds or no. Lemons it is. Oh no, that's the soap. Oh by the lotion. I knew there was something on my mind. Never went back in the soap not paid. Just like carrying bottles like that hag this morning. Hines might have paid me that 3 shillings. I could mention Mars just to remind him. Still if he works that paragraph. 2 and 9. Bad opinion of me he'll have. Call tomorrow. How much do I owe you? 3 and 9. 2 and 9, sir. Ah. Might stop him giving credit another time. Lose your customers that way. Pubs do. Fellows run up a bill on the slate and then slinking around the back streets into somewhere else. Here's this nobleman passed before. Blown in from the bay. Just went as far as turn back. Always at home at dinner time. Looks mangled out, had a good tuck-in. Enjoying nature now. Grace after meals. After supper walk a mile. Sure he has a small bank balance somewhere, government sit. Walk after him now, make him awkward like those newsboys made today. Still you'll learn something. See ourselves as others see us. So long as women don't mock what matter. That's the way to find out. Ask yourself, who is he now? The mystery man on the beach. Prized tidbit story by Mr. Leopold Bloom. Payment at the rate of 1 guinea per column. And that fellow today at the graveside in the brown Macintosh. Corns on his kismet, however. Healthy perhaps absorb all the whistle brings rain, they say. Must be some somewhere. Salt and the almond damp. The body feels the atmosphere. Old Betty's joints are on the rack. Mother Shipton's prophecy that is about ships around they fly in the twinkling. No. Signs of rain it is. The royal reader. And distant hills seem coming nigh. Hoth. Bailey light. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. See. Has the changer that might think it a house. Wreckers. Grace darling. People afraid of the dark. Also glowworms, cyclists, lighting up time. Jewels diamonds flash better. Women. Light is a kind of reassuring. Not going to hurt you. Better now of course than long ago. Country roads. Run you through the small guts for nothing. Still 2 types there bobbed against. Scholar smile. Pardon. Not at all. Best time to spray plants too in the shade after the sun. Some light still. Red rays longest. Roy B. Vance touches. Red, orange, yellow, green. blue, indigo, violet. A star I see. Venus. Can't tell yet. 2. When 3 it's night. Were those night clouds there all the time? Looks like a phantom ship. No. Wait. Trees are they? An optical illusion. Mirage. Land of the setting sun this. Hamirul sun setting in the southeast. My native land, good night. Dew falling. Bad for you, dear, to sit on that stone. Brings on white fluxions. Never have little baby unless he was big strong fight his way up through. Might get piles myself. Sticks too like a summer cold, sour on the mouth. Cut with grass or paper worst. Friction of the position. Like to be the rock she sat on. Oh sweet little, you don't know how nice you looked. I began to like them at that age. Green apples. Grab at all that offer. Suppose it's the only time we cross legs, seated. Also the library today, those girl graduates. Happy chairs under them, but it's the evening influence. The feel all that. Open like flowers, know their hours, sunflowers, Jerusalem artichokes, and ballrooms, chandeliers, avenues under the lamps. Not stuck in Matt Dillon's garden where I kissed her shoulder. Wish I had a full-length oil painting of her then. June that was too wooed. The returns. History repeats itself. Ye crags and peaks, I'm with you once again. Life, love, voyage around your own little world. And now, sad about her lame of course, but must be on your guard not to feel too much pity. They take advantage. All quiet on Hoth now. The distant hills sing. Where we? The rhododendrons. I am a fool perhaps. He gets the plums, and out the plum stones. Where I come in, all that old hill has seen. Names change, that's all. Lovers, yum yum. Tired I feel now. Will I get up? Oh wait. Drained all the manhood out of me, little wretch. She kissed me. Never again. My youth. Only once it comes. Or take the train there tomorrow. No. Returning not the same. Like kids your second visit to a house. The new owl on it. Nothing new under the sun. Care of pale dolphin's barn. Are you not happy in here? Naughty darling. At Dolphin's barn charades in Luke Doyle's house. Matt Dillon and his bevy of daughters, Tiny, Addie, Floy, Mamie, Lau, Hetty. Molly too. 87 that was. Year before we. And the old major, partial to his drop of spirits. Curious she an only child, I an only child. So it returns. Think you're escaping and run into yourself. Longest way round is the shortest way home. And just when he and she. Circus horse walking in the ring. Rip Van Winkle we played. Rip, tearing Henny Doyle's overcoat. Van, bread and delivering. Winkle, cockles and periwinkles. Then I did Rip Van Winkle coming back. She leaned on the city board watching. Moorish eyes. 20 years asleep at Sleepy Hollow. All changed. Forgotten. The young are old. His gun rusty from the dew. But what is that flying about? Swallow. Bat probably. Thinks I'm a tree, so blind. Have birds no smell? metempsychosis. They believed you could be changed into a tree from grief. Weeping willow. But there he goes. Funny little beggar. Wonder where he lives. Belfry up there. Very likely. Hanging by his heels in the outdoor of sanctity. Bell scared him out, I suppose. Mass seems to be over. Could hear them all up it. Pray for us. And pray for us. And pray for us. Good idea, the repetition. Same thing with ads. Buy from us. And buy from us. Yes, there's a light in the priest's house. The frugal meal. Remember about the mistake in the valuation when I was in Tom's. 28 it is. 2 houses they have. Gabriel Conroy's brother's curate. But, again, wonder why they come out at night like mice. They're mixed breed. Birds are like hopping mice. What frightens them, light or noise? Better sit still. All instinct like the bird in drought got water out of the end of a jar by throwing in pebbles. Like a little man in a cloak he's with tiny hands. Weeny bones. Almost see them shimmering, kind of a bluey white. Colors depend on the light you see. Stare at the sun for example like the eagle, then look at a shoe, see a blotched blob yellowish. Wants to stamp his trademark on everything. Instance, that cat this morning on the staircase. Color of brown turf. Say you never see them with 3 colors. Not true. They'd have to buy white tortoise eshel in the city arms with the letter M on her forehead. Body 50 different colors. Hoth a while ago amethyst. Glass flashing. That's how that wise man, what's his name, with the burning glass. Then the heather goes on fire. He can't be tourists' matches. What? Perhaps the sticks dry rubbed together in the wind and light. Or broken bottles in the first act as a burning glass in the sun. Archimedes. I have it. My memory's not so bad. But who knows what they're always flying for? Insects? That Bill last week got into the room playing with his shadow on the ceiling. Might be the one bit me, come back to see. Birds too. Never found out. Or what they say. Like our small talk. And says she and says he. Nerve they have to fly over the ocean and back. Lots must be killed in storms, telegraph wires. Dreadful life sailors have too. Big brutes of ocean-going steamers floundering along in the dark, lowing out like sea cows. Faux ballad. Out of that, bloody cursed deed. Others in vessels, bit of a handkerchief sail, pitching about like snuff at the wake when the stormy winds are to blow. Married too. Sometimes away for years at the ends of the earth somewhere. No one's really because it's round. Wife in every port they say. She has a good job if she minds it till Johnny comes marching home again. If ever he does. Smelling the tail-ended ports. How can they like the sea? Yet they do. The anchor's weighed. Off he sails with a scapular or a medal on him for a look. Well. And the Tefillin know what's this they call it poor Papa's father had on his daughter to touch. That brought us out of the land of Egypt and into the house of bondage. Something in all those superstitions because when you go out never know what dangers. Hanging on to a plank or astride of a beam for grim life belt round him, gulping salt water, and that's the last of his nibs till the sharks catch hold of him. Do fish ever get seasick? Then you have a beautiful calm without a cloud, Smooth sea, placid, crew and cargo and smithereens, Davy Jones' locker, moon looking down so peaceful. Not my fault, old cockalorum. A last lonely candle wandered up the sky from Miras Mazar in search of funds from Mercer's hospital and broke, drooping, and shed a cluster of violet but one white stars. The floated, fell, the faded. The shepherd's hour, the hour of folding, hour of tryst. From house to house, giving his ever-welcome double knock, went the 9 o'clock postman, the glowworm's lamp at his belt gleaming here and there through the laurel hedges. And among the 5 young trees a hoisted limped stalk lit the lamp at Leahy's terrace. By screens at lighted windows, by equal gardens a shrill voice went crying, wailing, evening telegraph, stop press edition. Result of the Gold Cup race. And from the door of Digham's house a boy ran out and called. Twittering the bat flew here, flew there. Far out over the sands the coming surf crept, gray. Hoth settled for slumber, tired of long days, of young rhododendrons. He was old, and felt gladly the night breeze lift, ruffle his fellow ferns. He lay but opened a red eye on sleeping, deep and slowly breathing, slumbers but awake. And far on Kish Bank the anchored lightship twinkled, winked at Mr. Bloom. Life those chaps out there must have, stuck in the same spot. Irish lights board. Penance for their sins. Coast guards too. Rocket and breeches buoy and lifeboat. Day we went out for the pleasure cruising the Erin's King, throwing them the sack of old papers. Bears in the zoo. Filthy trip. Drunkards out to shake up the livers. Puking overboard to feed the herrings. Nausea. And the women, fear of God in their faces. Millie, no sign of funk. Her blue scarf loose, laughing. Don't know what death is at that age. And then their stomachs clean. But being lost the fear. When we hid behind the tree at Crumlin. I didn't want to. Mama. Mama. Babes in the wood. Frightening them with masks too. Throwing them up in the air to catch them. I'll murder you. Is it only half fun? Or children playing battle? Whole earnest. How can people aim guns at each other? Sometimes they go off. Poor kids. Only trouble's wildfire and nettlers. Calamel purge, I got her for that. After getting better sleep with Molly. Very same teeth she has. What do they look? Another themselves. But the morning she chased her with the umbrella. Perhaps so as not to hurt it. I felt her pulse. Ticking. Little hand it was, now big. Dearest Papley. All that the hand says when you touch. Loved to count my waistcoat buttons. Her first stays I remember. Made me laugh to see. Little Paps to begin with. Left one is more sensitive, I think. Mine too. Nearer the heart. Patting themselves out of fat is in fashion. Her growing pains at night, calling, wakening me. Frightened she was when her nature came on her first. Poor child. Strange moment for the mother too. Brings back her girlhood. Gibraltar. Looking from Buena Vista. O'Hare's Tower. The sabre screaming. Old Barbary ape that gobbled all his family. Sundown, gunfire for the men to cross the lines. Looking out over the sea she told me. Evening like this, but clear, no clouds. I always thought I'd marry a lord or a rich gentleman coming with a private yacht. Buenas noches, señorita. El hombre ama la mujer hermosa. Why me? Because you were so foreign from the others. Better not stick here all night like a limpy. This weather makes you dull. Must be getting on for 9 by the light. Go home. Too late for Leah, Lily of Killarney. No. Might be still up. Called to the hospital to see. Hope she's over. Long day I've had. Martha, the bath, funeral, house of keys, museum with those goddesses, Deedle's song. Then the baller and Barney Kieran's. Got my own back there. Drunken ranters what I said about his God made him wince. Mistake to hit back. Or, no. Ought to go home and laugh at themselves. Always want to be swilling in company. Afraid to be alone like a child of 2. Suppose he hit me. Look at it other way round. Not so bad then. Perhaps not the hurt he meant. 3 cheers for Israel. 3 cheers for the sister-in-law he talked about, 3 fangs in her mouth. Same style of beauty. Particularly nice old party for a cup of tea. The sister of the wife of the wild man of Borneo has just come to town. Imagine it in the early morning at close range. Everyone to his taste, as Morris said when he kissed the cow. But Dignam's put the boots on it. Houses of mourning so depressing because you never know. Anyhow she wants the money. Must call to those Scottish widows as I promised. Strange name. Takes it for granted we're going to pop off first. That widow on Monday was at outside Kramer's that looked at me. Buried the poor husband but progressing favorably on the premium. Her widow's might. Well? What do you expect her to do? Must wheedle her way along. Widower I hate to see. Looks so forlorn. Poor man O'Connor, wife and 5 children poisoned by mussels here. The sewage. Hopeless. Some good matronly woman in the port be had to mother him. Take him in tow, platter face in a large apron. Ladies' grey flannel at Bloomers, 3 shillings a pair, astonishing bargain. Plain in love, loved forever, they say. Ugly, no woman thinks she is. Love, fly and be handsome for tomorrow we die. See him sometimes walking about trying to find out who played the trick. Up. Fate it is. He, not me. Also was shot often noticed. Kerr seems to dog it. Drank last night. Wait. Something confused. She had red slippers on. Turkish. Wore the breeches. Suppose she does. Would I like her in pajamas? Damned hard to answer. Nutty's gone. Mailboat. Near Holyhead by now. Must nail the head of Keys's. Work Hines and Crawford. Petticoats for Molly. She has something to put in them. What's the... Might be her money.